All right, awesome. Hi, I'm Antonio. I'm from the Nocturnal.
Hi.
How's it
Hi,
going?
Antonio. Good.
Um, so I guess let's just get started with this. What originally attracted you to the project when you read the script?
When I read the script, I remember thinking this was like a Mexican Get Out, and I absolutely had to be in it. The character Diana I resonate with a lot because she's a hyphenated American. So there is this layer of being both Mexican and American and having the cultures kind of blend into who you are. And I loved just the relationship and contrast between her partner and herself. And I mean, horror in particular is maybe not my favorite genre, but it allows us to have the ability to tell something that would be just, I think, um, really difficult to share with audience members, a little more digestible because it has this like component of horror. So I loved the message, I loved the character, and I thought the script was just so beautifully written.
Right. You mentioned that you related to your character because she's, Mexican American. Can you your own background, where can you sorry, I'm trying to
I'll expand. Yeah.
yeah, can you expand on that a little bit, like where you come from and like how like other things that you related as well?
Yeah, totally. So I'm a Mexican American, second generation,
Okay.
and I'm from a border town in McAllen, Texas. So super, super south. It growing up and in hindsight, realizing it's very much a bubble, like a safe bubble for Latinos to kind of exist in. Um, you know, as crazy as it sounds, like growing up, this concept of racism and being a minority to me seemed historical, like it didn't exist in present day. And that's not to say that there wasn't racism that existed in my own hometown, right?
Right.
But um, we, it was a very safe space for me to both see people that were lawyers and doctors, and held very important positions in our community, and to think that I could do that. There wasn't this kind of this notion that I had to figure out who I was and where I fit in. I just did. And it wasn't until I got older, similar to Diana, that I sort of had to confront this blend of cultures that a lot of hyphenated Americans exist in, and even the language barrier, the fluency. I am conversational. I can definitely hold a conversation with anyone, but I did not grow up speaking Spanish in my household, which is different than my parents, whose parents only spoke Spanish till they died, right? So like within the community, there is just varying degrees of experiences, of backgrounds, of stories, and being able to showcase that with the character of Diana, and then having the contrast of Beto was, I think, probably like my favorite part about the film, because it is really reflective of how complicated and diverse our community is.
Right. Oh no, 100%. Did you do anything specific to help you prepare to like get into the proper mindset of your character and like uh whether it was refreshing on Spanish or just, you know.
I mean, I've gotten a lot better at Spanish. I will say I'm watching a lot more Latino content in Spanish.
Nice.
Um, but I think for me during the pre-production, when I was having to prepare Diana, I felt like I understood. There were maybe like a few personality traits that I either had to like heighten or enhance or maybe like bring down. Um, the motherhood component was probably where I did the most research as far as the character goes, because being a mom is beautiful, and it's such a privilege and a superpower, but it's also extremely difficult and very complicated. And I found that when I was doing this research, a lot of moms, especially like in videos, didn't want to completely tell like this story, that it was way more daunting than they realized or than they had expected. And so, you know, I would go on like YouTube and everyone was just like glammed up, like they were beautiful with their babies. Like, I got this shit. And like, if they complained, like they still looked really pretty when they did it. But then I talked to friends and families and they were like, I fucking hated my child. After the baby, like I didn't feel like myself. I mean, would I do it again? Like it was a lot of conversations that I think women don't have because there aren't really spaces for that. So that was most of the work that I feel like I had to do as far as like preparing for Diana.
Interesting. Now, when you because you had to like almost like mother and take care of this not, you know, real child, what was that like? Did you grow an attachment to the unborn child?
Absolutely. I mean, um, this is not my first time playing a pregnant mom.
Okay.
So I physically, I mean, I think it's so important, and I still don't think like I could 100% do justice to like what it looks like to be a pregnant mom unless you're actually pregnant. Um, but there was a lot of like just physicality that I wanted to make sure that I embodied, so that it kind of was a driving force in how I behaved and how I acted and how I perceived things. Um, but but what was the question again?
Did you develop like some sort of
Oh
like
yes, yes, yes.
connection?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I started with the physicality, and from there, it kind of allowed me to make it all one, right? So like, it wasn't like myself and this prosthetic belly. It was like me and the belly are all one thing, and then you know there were really, if you're not an actor, like sometimes it just looks really weird, but like there were moments where I would talk to my stomach and I would like rub it as if it was a baby. I mean, yeah, and sometimes you use like substitution or whatnot. I used
Yeah.
to nanny a lot when I was a kid, um, up until until I started like actually like booking work for TV shows. So I know what it's like to have a connection with like a child, with a baby, and then I just kind of like used that with my experience and having a big belly.
Nice. My last question for you is and probably the most important is, what do you want people to like get out of watching your character or just the movie in general? Like what is the main takeaway that you want that to leave behind?
I mean, I don't like to restrict people on like what their interpretation is
Right.
as far as how, you know, what they get out of the film. I think any film meets you where you're at, and whatever you resonate with and need to hear, like that's what you're going to hear. um Ideally, yeah, it would be great that people have this recognition that women, Latinas especially, um to this day unfortunately are still, um yeah, they're still dealing with some injustices. And depending, you know, if you're an immigrant, if you're poor, there's just a whole world of just inequality that exists. And then, you know, having this like spectrum of being Latino, and if that resonates with you, and finding like where you fit in that, and creating like a space for everyone, would be really cool. And then beyond that, I mean, whatever impacts you and whatever you connect with, taking action, however you see fit. It doesn't have to be political. It doesn't even have to be on social media. It could just be something locally where you want to contribute to making the world a little bit better.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time and congrats on the movie. And have a good
Thank you.
rest of your
Thank you.
day. Okay,
Likewise.
bye.